Hey free-to-play gang, welcome back to another video. We are going to quickly go through the AI of Yuuhime. So I know a lot of you guys are very curious and I do have several things that I want to test for today's video, which is number one, how does her AI prioritize her S1 and her S2, because this matters a lot because these two can be spammed, and if they can be spammed, it's going to be a problem if you're not able to use one skill rather than the other skill. So let's figure out whether her AI is good or not. Spoiler alert, her AI is smart. And there are other things that I'll test out as well. So what happens when you kill an enemy with your third skill? Will you still gain those stacks? Like let's say you had debuff stacks at the start, right? All that kind of stuff. And also I want to test out rituals. I also want to test out Dark Star Lord. And I want to test out Avatara and how she performs with assist. Is her AI going to work that way? Is her AI going to understand what her S1 is? Okay, so for the very first test, let's take a look at how she works when we get another ally to debuff in place of her. So does that add to the number of Hell's Hand stacks that she has? Let's find out. So in this setup, we're going to use Sienna to land some extra debuffs for us. Like so, can we land some stuns? Okay, we got a couple of stuns here, very nice. So when her turn comes around, we have 3 debuffs right here. And we can apply disease on this skill as well. But when we do it, how many stacks do we have? We have 6 stacks and we have 6 debuffs. Okay, actually we have more than 6. We have 7 debuffs in total. So we hit the cap. Okay, so that's test number 1. Her stacks is actually based off your allies landing debuffs as well. So you do not really need to have accuracy on her kit. Although it might be quite important to have accuracy just because you need to land that HP cap reduction, which requires accuracy as well. But that bypasses immunity, which is really nice. Now onward to test number 2, which is to figure out how her AI works. Okay, so now AI test number 1. Will she prioritize her first skill or her second skill? So there is only one single enemy left over here. What is she going to do? She's going to use her first skill. So that is smart AI. She knows exactly when there is one single enemy that she should not use her second skill. She should only focus on her first skill. That is smart AI. Now what about her threshold? When would she use her second skill over her first skill? Let's find out. Okay, test number 2. Let's see whether she'll prioritize her first skill or her second skill now that there are 2 enemies over here. She uses her second skill, so that is her threshold. So as long as there is more than 2 enemies, she will automatically use her second skill, which is really good. This is a great thing to have. So her AI works like this. She's going to prioritize her third skill first, followed by either her first skill or her second skill, depending on the number of enemies left. If there is only 1 left, she'll use her first skill for big nuke. If there's more than 1 enemy, she will then use her second skill for AoE defense break and AoE damage as well. Now, next up we have the Avatara test. So I'm going to test what's going to happen when she counterattacks. Is she going to use her first skill or is she going to use her second skill? What exactly does her AI think her first skill is supposed to be? So now we have a lot of enemies here, right? So naturally she will be using her second skill in a situation where there is more than 1 enemy. So this is going to be a good enough test for us. If she counterattacks with her first skill, then we can more or less conclude that her first skill is literally just her first skill and that's about it. So let's see. Oh my god. Okay, let's test this again. Let's use our first skill here. Come on, attack me. Counter attack. Come on, let's go. Wait, seriously? Come on, counter attack. Where are my Avatara procs? Wait, legit. Wait, hold on. What? Are you serious? Wow. Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, so we counter attack with our first skill. We do not counter attack with our second skill. So her Avatara will consume all of her Hell's Hand stack. So please be careful. If you're going to be using her, it may not be the best idea to use Avatara on her just because she might waste her stacks this way. You might want to prioritize it just because you want to spam your second skill a little bit more and maybe deal a little bit more damage, but I think that's about it. But I mean, of course, on top of that, there is of course the buff extensions that is very important to have. So if you counter attack with your first skill, you get rid of all of your buffs, or rather you get rid of all your Hell's Hand stacks. You will not extend the buffs when you start your next turn, because as you can see here, extends all of her buffs at the start of her turn. So Avatara is probably not a really good set to have on her. And now for our next test, let's figure out what happens when we assist. So we're going to use Apep A.I over here to assist and see whether do we use our second skill or our first skill. It's kind of obvious, right? So we're going to use this. Nice animation, by the way. Wait, what? Oh my god, freaking hell, we killed that. Okay, let's try this again. Time to assist with your normal attack. So assist will also use her normal attack, which is potentially a problem as well because you kind of want her to have the Hell's Hand stack so that she can give herself more buff extensions, which I think is quite important, at least for a kid, because after all, she's a DPS Esper, so she might really need some of those shields, she might need the defense buff, she might need the invincibility, anything that can protect her. Immunity as well, those are very essential buffs that she needs to extend on herself. I'm not saying that it's going to be bad for her to use the Avatara or to have assist Espers on the same lineup, but I'm just saying that in a lot of situations, it could be quite detrimental to the way that you want to use her. Alright, now the next thing that I want to test out is what happens when we kill an enemy with our third skill, because this matters a lot. The problem with that is by killing an enemy, and if we still do not get those stacks, it is not good for us, because we do need to have those stacks regardless of whether we kill the enemies or not. It's a very important thing to have, but it's just a nuance in most cases, but I still feel like it's important to know. So for example, let's get rid of this healer over here. We can assist attack. Okay, so now there are 2 debuffs here, which means that by right, we should get 2 plus however many disease debuffs that we land on her third skill. But let's find out what happens after using this skill and we take someone out. We actually got rid of this Esper who was stunned, right? And as you can see, we have 3 debuffs on the field and we also have 3 more Hell's Hand buffs here. So we actually didn't get all the buffs that we are supposed to get. We didn't get all the stacks that we were supposed to get because the Esper up front, that Esper had a debuff. It's just unfortunate that the Esper died before the calculation actually took place. So the way this works is if you kill the Esper, their debuffs will not be calculated into her third skill. And if you're still wondering what her third skill does, essentially this is the part that I'm referring to. Then gains a certain number of Hell's Hand stack based on the total number of enemy debuffs. So this is calculated at the end. Now another thing that I want to test out is how does her third skill work, because this says that the fewer the enemies, the higher the damage dealt. So let's figure out what that multiplier looks like. Now let's focus on this Wind Esper up front. Okay, so now we're up against 5 different enemies. Let's see how much damage we can do. We're gonna crit for what's that, 9,000 something, right? Yeah, okay, so 9,000 plus. And what about now that we have only 1 enemy left? Let's see what the damage difference is. Ah, shit, so close. Okay, so test number 2 again. Let's figure out how much damage she can do when we are up against 1 single enemy. So like I said, the fewer the enemies, the higher the damage dealt. How much damage is this going to be? 19,000, so it's a 2 times multiplier. So the thing is, when you're up against 5 enemies, you're dealing X amount of damage, but when you're up against 1 single enemy, that damage actually increases to twice the amount that we should expect. So that is the range between 1 times and 2 times. And people on Discord server has actually already calculated this to be 25% per missing enemy. So if you're up against 2 enemies, you would be doing 1.75 times damage to both of those enemies, something like that, and it just decreases by 25% each time. Now the next very crucial test is to test out how she works, especially in Apep. I do believe that a lot of people are going to be using her for Apep, but how does that affect her AI? We're actually going to fight something a little bit easier so that we can ensure that we can at least go all the way to the end. Okay, so here comes the important test. We are up against Apep and there are 2 followers on either side of the boss. So we have already tested that up against 1 enemy, she will use her first skill, but up against more than 2 enemies, or rather more than 1 enemy, she will use her second skill. So what is her AI going to prioritize in the situation where you're up against a boss with 2 followers? What it might seem is that she will use her second skill, but she used her first skill instead. This is a big difference, a very big difference to her kit. So her AI is smart enough to understand that the followers on either side, they are just followers. She shouldn't actually be using her AoE attack to deal damage, but it can also be thought that, okay, so right now she cannot defense break. Is that her kit? Yes, that is her kit in Apep, for example. You're not going to be able to use her to defense break the boss. It is not going to happen because her AI is going to prioritize her first skill for bigger nukes instead. So she kind of benefits players who already have like super fast comms with the right defense breaker. So for example, if you have a Joser here, Joser is going to defense break the boss for you, and most of these players, they are using Espers like Brewster, for example. They're using Espers like Drew. They're using other very broken Espers that can help them with the defense break, like Embla, for example. So that is where her role is in dealing a lot of single target damage. So it's a little bit unfortunate that she's not going to be able to defense break, but I guess it is what it is. That is the major trade-off in terms of her AI. Now, you might also be thinking, okay, so if she chooses not to use a second skill in Apep, what about Dark Star Lord? Because that matters a lot. You kind of need to have the defense break, and dealing AoE damage does boost your overall score in Dark Star Lord. So would she or would she not use her second skill in Dark Star Lord? Let's find out. Oh wow, damn, I did not record this, but holy crap. The HP cap reduction actually applies onto the followers as well. I did not know. Wow, that could be good or could be bad. Yeah, that's actually a very sensitive thing to do because right now that means that they die a lot easier, which means their debuffs actually go away a lot quicker as well, if you guys didn't already know. So it might actually be a bad thing that she applies the HP cap reduction on these two followers here. Okay, anyway, this is the test that we are here for. So, will she use her first skill or her second skill? Let's find out. She used her first skill. Oh, damn. Oh, this... Oh, a little bit cringe. Okay, so it kind of sucks a little bit that she uses her first skill because she still thinks of Dark Star Lord as a boss and the two followers don't matter according to her. But with that, we will not be able to have the defense break here, which is super important to have because that means we need another Esper to fulfill the defense breaking role, which is not going to be her, even though she has a defense break on her kit. And that kind of sucks a little bit. So it's very unfortunate that she's primarily focusing more on her damage output on her first skill rather than her second skill at times. I feel like Dark Star Lord, or at least some of these boss content that is not Ritual Miracles, it could be better that she uses her second skill instead of her first skill, but yeah. Anyway, now I'm actually a little bit curious. I want to find out what happens when we kill this ad over here. Will the ad actually lose the HP cap reduction, which I think it should. Oh my god, it did not remove. Oh no, this is bad. I was really hoping that this would disappear, but it did not. So all in all, I do feel like she's probably not going to be great in like the Sentinel Hunt or Dark Star Lord in particular because she lacks the defense break, and secondly, she reduces the HP cap of these followers here, which really sucks. But I guess that's it for this really quick test anyway. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. How do you feel about this test? What do you feel about her AI? Do you feel like there might need to be some changes? Do you think there needs to be some improvements? But I can most certainly guarantee that her second skill with no cooldown is not a bug. I feel like it is intended. It is part of her mechanic so that she swaps in between either using her first skill or her second skill. But it's kind of sad that her first skill depletes all of her buff stacks, which means she's not going to be able to extend buffs when she takes the next turn, which is kind of sad. So her rotation is not very good on her first skill unless you have her at R6. So that's why I do feel like she's potentially an R6 Esper, but on the bright side, you do not really need to invest a lot of skill ups into her. In fact, I don't even think you need to invest skill ups into her at all. It just improves her DPS, and that is all. So that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give a thumbs up. It really helps the channel, and subscribe for more Dislyte content. Now with that said, this has been Dairy Free to Play, and as always, I will see you in the next video.